Revolutionizing Our Wellbeing, Unleashing the Power of Daily Self-Care for Mental Wellness. I'm Roseanna Colabella, a holistic health practitioner. I go by she, they pronouns, and I have been in the industry for about 20 years. And today, we are going to take some time to talk about how self-care, which is counter to grind culture, will help with self-preservation and give you some tips on what you could do every single day that can help you with achieving mental wellness no matter what. This is about accessibility and empowerment. So we want to start at the foundation of this. And as I said, we're going to talk about self-preservation. I'm pulling from a legend, Audre Lorde, to talk about that. And Audre Lorde says, caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. So the revolution starts here. And that is taking the oxygen mask first. What that means is being able to sustain our own quality of life through our well-being. So one feeds into the other, which then enables us to support our own community. So if we go back, we take the oxygen mask first, equals we are able to have a sustainable well-being, giving us a quality of life that will energize us enough to show up and support our community. This also takes back control over our coping mechanisms. And what I mean by that is when we're tired, we make bad choices. When we are overwhelmed, we have more reactionary behaviors. We perpetuate consumerism with these kinds of behaviors where we become self-indulgent, and it just leads to mental illness, physical illness, and so many other cascading outcomes from really, really simple behaviors. But it's mostly because we let ourselves become so overwhelmed and we do so much for everyone else that we don't necessarily allow ourselves to be taken care of. And so what is wellness? It is a positive component of good health. And that is a blending of different parts of ourselves. There are 6 and only 5 are listed here, and they're spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, and social health, which all contribute to our overall wellness. The one not added here, but I value a lot, is our occupational health. What we do every day and how we spend time contributes to our mental wellness. So not only is it from the deepest parts of ourselves, but all the way externally to what we do every day and even the environment in which we do it. Now, growing up, I watched a lot of TV and I ate a lot of processed food while constantly facing other insecurities. If you're a millennial, you probably have felt this way or gone through this as well. We lacked guidance. Not many people modeled what self-care was like growing up. There were limited choices because I grew up in the inner city of San Diego and I grew up in poverty. So I didn't really get to have a lot of choices when it came to nutrition or even a lot of activities that I was able to do. We were limited by time, who could take care of me and my siblings, what we could eat was what my family was able to offer us. And, you know, that imprinted really specific types of behavior. That behavior was just mirrored as adults. A lot of us go through this where we just see what was offered by our elders and kind of go for that. But in thinking about the time, you know, we didn't have a lot of choices then. As adults, we have more choices and what we have to work with, what is that imprinted behavior. The power of choice. So we get to choose to practice simple and accessible daily habits so we can achieve anything we put our minds to. However, I do want to identify that choice fatigue is real. We are bombarded every day with about 35 gigabytes of information. That's a lot. 35 gigabytes is like an external hard drive, or at least it was the last time I bought one. And so if we take a moment now to look at our lives we can identify which choices we have. Let's go back. Yes. Let's identify the choices we have and see where our life has moments for self-care. Whether it's in the morning or at night, just take a general scan of your body. How do you feel? What's coming up for you? Where would you like to have more time in your life? Because we're not separate from our lives. We are a big part of it, and the way we feel and think about it does contribute to then our actions. So I was not always a holistic health practitioner. Although it was 20 years in the making, I did start from poverty, as I said, and illness. There was a constant consideration of what was happening in my health as a person. And growing up, I wanted to see and pay attention to other ways of cultures really embracing health in as many different ways as possible. I grew up very multicultural in the South Bay, and so I was able to see different ways that different people lived. And with that, I was able to, pay attention when somebody says, "Oh, I got a massage and it helped with my indigestion and I felt de-stressed." Or, I went for a jog by the bay and, the thing I was so worried about really cleared my mind. There was all these little tidbits that happened throughout my life that I was able to then think about and see, like, when that compounds, what is that? What does that mean? Coming from a military family in a military town, I had very limited choices, not only in, nutrition and those things and self-care because other people were taking care of me, but also in opportunities. I either had to pick a trade or go to the military. I picked a trade, and at 19, I went to massage school. And that really opened my eyes and highlighted all those tidbits that had been going around throughout my life, and me paying attention to how people were taking care of themselves outside of the Western medicine, go to the doctor norm, and was able to put it all into one scope of practice. Of course, it did take me time to develop that practice, but pretty much that's how I came to be here today. I was very young in the industry and learned so much. And really, if you know anything about health and wellness, there's kind of a cliche that about the wounded healer, like healer, heal thyself. We always come into this to try to figure out what we can do. I wanted options, and then in learning how to take care of myself and my future family, I then learned how to share this with others, and that's what I'm all about, and that's what we're here for today. And so, there are questions that come up about self-care and wellness, about cultural appropriation, and really the inaccessibility that's come from modern wellness and well-being. And so I want to touch on that just briefly, because this journey is more about you and your life's practices, but I don't want to negate or ignore what's out there. Now, a lot of times when people think of wellness and self-care, you might think of spas, luxurious bath bombs, expensive things. And I'm here to tell you that it does not have to be that way. Self-care does not have to be expensive. It is a daily ritual, rhythm, and routine that you can embody and empower yourself to take care of yourself. So I want to just honor whatever cultural traditions that you may have experienced, and also assess that there is a cultural appropriation and people are profiting off of other people's cultures, and that's not cool. Here today, I'm not really the judge of that. I'm just bringing it to light to say that all of this to say wellness and self-care can still be as simple as the next things I'm about to tell you. So let's go back to the slides. Yes, perfect. Okay, because that's what we're here. Simple, accessible self-care that can be practiced on a daily basis. And we're starting with mindfulness and breath. These are two very awesome combination practices. Now, I talked a little bit about reactions and responding, and I meant that because we're usually so tired that we are more reactive. And there's a difference, and mindfulness helps bring us from reaction to responding to the stimuli in our lives. Mindfulness is practicing being present and aware of yourself and your surroundings without judgment. That's right. No judgment. We are in a very, very, very judgy world, but I'm asking you to go without it, because this is our life and we get to do with our lives what we want. I also truly believe that with mindfulness, we can get rid of guilty pleasures. This is a soapbox I stand on a lot, and I'm sharing it here with you today because I truly don't believe in guilty pleasures. There is only pleasure. And when we live life with stacking pleasure, we are able to find joy in more places. I'll get more into that as we talk about gratitude, but for now, I just want to drop that in and see how that tickles your fancy to like consider not be judgmental about your life and where you are, and also getting rid of guilty pleasures and just, feeling pleasure in your life. Now we talk about breath. Breath is so amazing. It helps bring clarity and focus to your mind, but it's also oxygenating to the brain, which soothes the nervous system. It helps reduce stress, increase energy, and then you get to have this creative flow. So there are specific practitioners that work with breath work. I am not a certified or specialist with breath work. You can go to someone who specializes in that. I use breath work breathing as a practice for self-soothing and offer it today as that practice. And it is pretty simple. If we want to do it together today, right now, let's go. We're just going to take a deep breath in, hold it at the top, let it out slowly. Already, I feel my shoulders release down and I feel like an inner calm. You can do this as many times as you wish throughout the day, or if you feel really stressed or anxious, or you're trying to be mindful, and that mindfulness practice, that judgment is strong. If you feel that strong judgment, just breathe it in, hold on to the judgment and be like, let it out. This is how these two practices really work well together. And truthfully, growing up overstimulated, this has been one of my favorite ways to calm my nervous system, especially if there's anxiety happening. Public transit can be really intense if you do suffer from anxiety, or you don't like being around other people, or you get overstimulated really easily. Breath work is super helpful. Also mindfulness, because if you find yourself in a situation where you feel overwhelmed, I've once been in the Seattle market, a Pike's Place, and was extremely anxious. I didn't even really know I was having a panic attack at that point, but one of my dear friends who was with me was like, "Why do you look like Grumpy Cat?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm fine. It's okay." And he was like, "Are you having a panic attack?" And I was just like, "Oh, I guess I am." But as soon as I realized I was able to take a deep breath and kind of go more into myself and not pay attention to all the stimuli around me, so that I wasn't judging my reaction, which took some of the stress away. And then I was able to tap into my breath, which really calmed me long enough to get to a corridor that had less people. So that is mindfulness and breath. Very helpful tools that you can use any moment of the day, all the time. Now, as we go further and we're able to think clearly and respond better, the next layer to think of is how our bodies function and the best way for our bodies to function. Basically, our bodies are a machine, right? We're not a car, but we need tune-ups. We need oil, we need gas, we need all the things. Specifically, we need hydration. And I'm going to talk about hydration and herbs, because even though we are 60% water, we still need at least half of our body weight in ounces per day to stay hydrated. It brings us energy and keeps our focus sharp. If ever you're feeling kind of spaced out and you don't know why, drink some water. It will help immensely with focus, especially if you are working on a long project and you don't realize how long you've been at it. Get some water. It really helps all the functions of your body, including your mental faculties. I have to say, not drinking water all the time isn't the best. If you have to use the bathroom all the time or you're concerned about it, always have water with you, of course. But my favorite hack is to eat fruits and veggies. So fruits and veggies have up to 90% water, depending on which ones you choose. You can have cucumbers, oranges, tomatoes, grapes, strawberries, like so many fruits and vegetables have lots of water. So not only are you hydrating yourself, you're also getting vitamins and minerals. I grew up in San Diego, as I've said, and I really miss how so much citrus fruit grows, just wild. I mean, I know it's not wild because they used to be orchards, but you could walk down the city and find oranges or limes or lemon trees just kind of everywhere. And it just is so soothing for me because one of my tias would always give us ugly oranges because her thought was the uglier the orange, the sweeter and juicier it was. And most times she was right. I love oranges so much for this, and it really is reminiscent to my childhood and home. And then it's an easy way for me to just take care of myself and actually stay hydrated while feeling a little nourished in my soul if ever I get homesick, because I get my vitamins and I also get to remember that memory of peeling the ugliest oranges that were the most juicy and like delicious. So herbs are next. Yep, we've already talked about hydration. So herbs have many benefits. They are mineral rich, mineral dense, and also help with our nervous system function. I talk about the nervous system a lot because we're also talking about mental wellness, and having a soothed nervous system means that we can think more clearly, we can be more present and able to move forward with making the best choices for ourselves. Now, in regards to herbs, I will say always speak with a professional herbalist, a medical professional, your physician, not using herbs for any kinds of diagnostics or cures. Highly recommend using herbs like culinary herbs, herbal teas, and those kinds of things. One of my favorite herbs is chamomile. And it is my favorite herb because it was kind of the first herb I was introduced to that wasn't, herbs in my food that I didn't really pay attention to. I was a young child, and my nana, who's from Mexico, made me chamomile tea. And my grandparents were the immigrant layer of my family. My parents were first generation. And so they assimilated very strongly to American culture and relied on Western medicine for most things. But the one thing my grandma still kept from her culture was herbal teas and plant medicine in this very small way, it's very small faculty. And so I just cherished chamomile tea because it was the one time me and my nana really were able to bond over something that I felt a deeper connection to that I didn't really have a name for when I was a child, but now I do know it's traditional medicine and that traditional connection. And it really spawned my curiosity for how what we put in our bodies can affect us and how we have access to things like chamomile and mint and all these other plants that are available to benefit our bodies with minerals, with the outcomes that they bring. And so my journey began there. Probably at 7 years old, I wanted to know more about how plants, food, herbs, spices, all of these things would benefit us. And it's not just for flavor, although the flavors are amazing, but those flavors also have minerals. Those flavors also have vitamins. And those help us function, our immune system function, so many other layers of what can function in our body function better because of these amazing plants. Now we are on to rest and movement. Now, rest is super powerful, and it is essential for physical and mental health. When we rest, we give our body time to heal, which reduces stress and decreases fatigue. You don't have to take a nap. I'm going to say that right now. You can call it chillax, you can call it meditation, you can call it whatever you want, but take time to rest. I find it kind of ironic that, like my grandma soothing me with my chamomile tea, adults take care of children and are aware of children's need. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Are you overstimulated? Do you need a nap? Do you need a hug? What do you need? We're always aware of what to do for children. But then I wonder, how often do we do this for ourselves? How often do you ask yourself, am I overwhelmed? Am I overstimulated? Do I need water? Do I need a hug? We don't. And so this is why I'm really emphasizing taking time for self-care every single day. You want to be like this little fun creature over here, just chill, just relax, give yourself the space for self-care. And now we get to movement. Movement is such good medicine. There's actually a program called Exercise is Medicine, which is really trying to change the way we look at fitness and physical activity, and really, really engage positivity about it. Because when we do move our bodies, we let out anxious energy, we produce happy chemicals, we activate our lymph system, and our lymph system helps heal our body. When we move our body, we get to feel our body. So let's reduce anxiety, improve our sleep, and increase energy levels just with movement. Now, physical activity, 30 minutes a day is recommended. And here at Muscles and Heart, we do have a great program, and you can inquire further about that. But right now, I really want to share with you my own story about how physical activity affected my mental health. A couple of years ago, like many people, I tapped into a childhood activity, a hobby, and it was roller skating. I got on quads and I was ready to go. Me and my partner decided that it was a way for us to work through COVID depression when we were all, forced to stay home more and things were so uncertain. We combated that uncertainty with the certainty of fun and activity. Unfortunately, I badly injured my ankle. It was it was like the end of the season, so it wasn't a surprise, but I was just really pushing myself too hard and it hurt my ankle. Couldn't skate anymore. Well, that was my antidepressant that season, right? So what was I to do? I laid in bed probably for like 2 or 3 weeks because it was a really bad ankle injury. Luckily, I knew what to do and I was able to tap into other practitioners to help me heal myself quicker or let my body heal quicker. But still, I was slower than I was. I couldn't skate. I had to keep myself braced and had to be really, really mindful about how much movement I had before soreness came about. I got depressed. I was really emotional about my healing process. It was taking too long. It inhibited me from going outside and doing activities. I didn't leave the house for 2 weeks, and that was at the end of summer. It was like the best time to be outside, and I couldn't. I was bummed. Slowly but surely, I started to move my body again. I wasn't skating, but I was going up and down my stairs. I was going for walks. I was activating my ankle to move it around. Slowly but surely, I got out of the depression. If it wasn't for physical activity at the beginning or middle of COVID, I would have been extremely depressed. I was anxious and depressed, and then it helped. And then I got injured. But then physical activity came back around, and I was able to get over that and work through that once again. So I emphasize how movement saved me from depression. And I encourage everyone to take time for physical activity, 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be rigorous. Just go for a walk, get your heart rate up a little bit. It's extremely important. Okay, told you about resting your bodies, and I've told you about moving your bodies. I'm so grateful for being here today, and I appreciate all the time that you are spending listening to me talk about these things, because I do really believe that these simple, small steps, small choices lead to big impacts that will greatly improve our lives and well-being. So I want to talk about gratitude and resilience. With gratitude, we get to be more optimistic. Everyone is pessimistic. The world is pessimistic. There's no good news ever on the news. So why not choose what we can be positive about? It increases our relationships because, being happier makes you a joy to be around. People want to be around joyful people. And it also improves sleep quality. If you're not stressed out, you're not worried about how terrible everything is, you can sleep better. It's not a big surprise. There are 3 ways to practice gratitude: looking for good things, noticing good things as they happen, and expressing gratitude for the good things. This is where I go back into pleasure stacking and talking about living in pleasure, because when you notice that something is good, then you want to notice more good things. You want to feel good. You want to continue that positive cycle. And gratitude contributes to resilience. With resilience, we could recognize our limits and honor our struggles while practicing self-compassion so we can enjoy tapping into our creativity. I know we didn't choose to be resilient, especially those of us who come from trauma. But here we are. We are resilient. We have gone through tough things. And it's okay to be here because we deserve to have joy in our lives. And we deserve to tap into our creativity and be expressive about what we enjoy in our lives. Or, be expressive about what you don't enjoy in our lives, but still have the energy to express. And that's where resilience really is useful. If you want to tap into your resilience, I think the best way to do that is with persistence. So these little creatures bouncing all around, I feel like, are the epitome of resilience and persistence, because they don't give a flying bleep. They are obstinate. They have obstinance, and in spite of their difficulty, they are going for it. That is, to me, the most radical anyone can be. When in spite of what's happening, you are like, I don't care. I'm going to do me. I'm going to just be here and express. Like, the world can be crumbling down, and the resilience I'm going to harness and kapoo. Just be. So as we close down, I want to reiterate that self-care is a revolutionary act. We cannot make a change in the world if we are sick, sad, and broken. We have to use daily small choices to make the bigger impacts on our mental, physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Again, iterating that it is not a luxury. It's not a one-time go to the spa and cool, I'm fixed. Self-care is a lifestyle. It takes time and it takes attention to nourish yourself. And nourishing yourself is not selfish. We are choosing self-preservation as an act of political warfare. So choose you, so you can show up for your community and make the positive change and impact that you want to see in the world. Thank you so much. And I want to thank the Mata Art Gallery for everything they've done to help me put this together.